Hi, thanks for joining us. My name is Dario. Welcome to The Missing Church. We are filming episode 3 today. I'm very excited to introduce you to my best friend, Megan. She's here to talk about her path, her walk of spirituality that doesn't necessarily have to do with churches and pretty much her entire history. And so I'm just here to collect some data, get a consensus of what people are thinking and what kind of mix of backgrounds there are out in the world. And I'm really excited that you're here. Thanks for joining us, and I'm excited to start off on this mission. Hi, Meg.
Hi, hello.
It's great to
How
have
are
you.
you? Hello.
I'm glad that you're here.
Me too.
Thank you for joining this little mission here, because it's not as much of a spiritual mission as it is. It's not imposing in any one direction of.
Sure.
I'm not here to make you believe anything.
Sure.
No,
nor am I.
Right. I'm here to just have an open discussion about different approaches to spirituality today. Because, today I feel that there are so many people just kind of wandering aimlessly. And that's kind of my mission to put some shape to that a little bit. So, there's a lot of people who don't feel that they fit in the churches or don't have a desire to be a part of a church. And then there's a good percentage of people who don't feel like they are welcome at churches, and they feel kind of like not shunned, but not, again, like they don't fit in, but they really also are not welcome, So I want to get to know more about where you come from, mainly because knowing that you're not associated with a church, or that you really haven't been too much in your life at all, you're still one of the best people that I know.
Oh.
You are, and you're just well-spirited. You're extremely kind, and you're obviously fueled by something, and that's what I want to get down to the bottom of.
Sure.
Because a lot of people, I feel, in my experience, being a Christian myself, that I see and I meet a lot of people who are driven and motivated by their accountability to their church, the people they hang out with at church, the Bible, their spiritual beliefs and whatnot. But you're not a good person because of that. So I want to know what makes you tick.
In spite of that, no, I'm just kidding. Totally kidding. No. I don't have a lot of experience with the church as a whole. My dad was raised Catholic, but I never saw any church going in my time with him. My mom, not a huge religious person. She kind of started steering that way a little bit closer to her passing. So like maybe the last 2 to 3 years of her life. I would go visit her, and she'd say things along the lines of like, well, when the Lord's ready to take me, he'll take me. And I noticed, like a broken down version of like, I think it was the Psalms, like a Reader's Digest version of just like that portion of the Bible on like her nightstand. So I don't know if that was some sort of repenting she was doing. I don't know if there was some fear of what lies beyond.
Did she feel the end coming or something, do you think?
I don't know necessarily. My dad passed in 2018, and that was kind of when it started to pick up. For all I know, I know she had me, but it could have been seeking comfort, seeking something to speak into the void to, She's in the house by herself. So I don't know if it was that. I don't know if it was some sort of, I need to give myself a soft place to land, once my time comes. And then I feel that by inviting the Lord into my life, I'll be giving myself that. I don't know. It seemed a little, pick and choose. Like, I don't know if mom had the full information of like what it is to church go, what it is to be a Catholic, what it is to be a Christian, what it is to be, and it wasn't easy to have those conversations with her. But I don't know if that was because she wasn't completely educated on it, or wasn't sure what her path in religion was
Okay.
this late in life. So yeah, as far as like my upbringing, I mean, I went to, midnight mass with boyfriends and their families. Like
Oh.
I'm definitely not, I'm not opposed to those things. I'm
Okay.
not, I'm not like, get away, church,
Right.
I'm not going. Like, I try to live very open-mindedly about things. And I think that spirituality and religion is something that's very personal to each person. And as long as someone's not condemning me or really trying to force it down my throat, like I'm perfectly open to learning and listening and kind of taking it all in.
I wanna get right back to that, but before we get much further,
Mm-hmm.
if you don't mind, I want to
Yeah.
just because the nature of this show is kind of a consensus, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we can share a little bit more about you, so that others can maybe identify with you, like your age range, what you do as a profession, and as I know you, a side profession as well.
Sure,
You know,
sure.
and then like what you're into. I mean, like just your shirt alone that says you're Disney nuts.
You think it's a flannel, but little do you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, so I'm 40. Live up here in the Midwest, the Chicagoland area with Dario, and only child. I have a work from home job doing some administrative work. I'm in a band. I'm a musician on the weekends / sometimes during the week. When the bat signal goes up, I am there. Yeah, I love Disney. I love crafting. I'm big into like watching TV shows that have like long range seasons that I can just dive into. I have 4 animals that I take care of, 2 senior animals and two young kitties. And yeah, I mean, I just enjoy time with friends. I enjoy open dialogue conversations. And that's pretty much it. Disney's the top tier. I am a Disney adult.
Okay,
I'm definitely
fair
a
enough.
Disney adult.
Okay, well, thanks for sharing that little bit of information. Just
Yeah.
like I said, so people can kind of categorize. I almost feel like this is part of my mission is like finding categories of people so that you can find your people kind of thing.
Sure.
Because there aren't churches. I mean, the slogan, the subtitle of this, of the missing churches, where's the church for the rest of us?
Yeah.
Now
yeah.
this is, and now maybe it should be more appropriately said as churches, because I'm not trying to funnel anybody. I'm just
Sure.
trying to help people find other like-minded people,
Yeah.
Yeah. But back to my point that I wanted to get to, that you made a really good point, or you brought up something that I believe is very important. You live very open-minded. You're very open-minded and open to discussion. I want to touch on that and ask, what makes you so open-minded and accepting of other people's lifestyles? How is it that it's just innately in your nature when so many people feel like this is associated to, oh, you must have had a Christian upbringing or like a peaceful kind of organized,
Sure.
peace-driven upbringing?
Sure.
And knowing what I know about you personally, you did not actually.
Yeah.
You actually came from a tumultuous kind of home and upbringing.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, as an only child, so there was it didn't seem like there was a lot of influence to be this way, lest it's like the typical, well, not typical, I don't want to say typical, but the common school of thought of like, well, my upbringing was this way and I
Right.
didn't like it, so I wanted to be the opposite,
Right.
which I have some of that too.
Yeah. I think that was a big thing for me. Not to get into like a full set of past experiences, but yeah, definitely a tumultuous like home life. And I think that I know we've had this conversation off camera, but I think that like if you go through things in life, call them traumas if you will, sure, why not? When you go through tough things in life, you go through a certain amount, and it's different for everyone, but you go through a certain amount and then you hit that come to Jesus moment, where you go, wow, these not so great things are happening to me. And I think I've reached a point where my brain is telling me, do I want to become a product of that, or do I want to be better than the product of what's in front of me? And I think it happens for everyone at a different point in their life. I'm sure maturity has a lot to do with it. and just kind of inner dialogue that you're having with yourself.
Mhm.
And I couldn't tell you when that moment was. There, like, I mean,
Oh,
I feel like I
nuts.
should remember it.
Yeah, I was
I feel
actually
like I
going
should
to
remember
ask you because I had a
Um,
satirical version of that
I,
question.
I think it. If I had to guess, I think it was probably after um, some really negative verbiage from one of my parents.
Hmm.
Um, and I think something just clicked on that started that spark of like, I would never want someone to feel the way I feel right now
Oh, yeah.
in this moment. I would never. And what do we do in order to stop that? We don't speak to people this way, you know. And I love my parents, and I'm of the firm belief that, you know, you have step parents, but you only get one mom, you only get one dad.
Hmm.
And you do your best to maintain relationships with your family members and the people that are close to you. And I did that. Um, and I think that because I stuck around, and stayed kind of in that environment, but kept those beliefs of, you treat people a certain way, you treat people the way you would want to be treated. You don't, you know, cause unnecessary waves. You don't bring drama to people's lives. And you can speak sweetly, but speak directly. You don't have to be callous
Hmm.
about negative things or things that you don't agree with. I think that because I made that choice to stick around and like push that kindness and push that kindness, regardless of what was being thrown back at me, honestly, I think it helped a lot with my grief when my parents passed.
Okay.
Because especially my mom, we had a very tumultuous relationship, a very tumultuous home life in general. But once again, I had a moment where I stepped back and I said, you know, there's all this negativity flying at you, but you don't know what's coming tomorrow.
Hmm.
And if you were to give yourself the decision to stay and try to keep the relationship going and keep the relationship built and fostered, and just, you never know.
Right.
Or if you were to leave, you have to think about the fallout of leaving. Should your mom pass tomorrow and you've cut her out of your life, how would you process your grief?
Right.
Would you feel bad that you left? Would you feel bad that you gave up? Would you feel like you abandoned her? And I knew I would.
Hmm.
And to me, that abandonment and like all of that wasn't worth me leaving. Like, I decided to stay and take the brunt of the comments and the criticisms and this and that, because at least I was still trying. And when my mom passed, I had this relief of like, I didn't leave. And because I didn't leave, luckily we were in a decent place when she passed. You know, we weren't not speaking to each other. We weren't this, we weren't that. And we had a rough go a few months before she passed, where she was not speaking to me. And I was like, I don't know if this woman's ever going to talk to me again. Like, I was calling the house and letting it ring like 30, 40 times.
Wow.
So we didn't have an answering machine.
Sure, yeah.
Hoping that she would just get annoyed enough to like
Sure, to answer.
up.
What? Even if it was just what?
But you know, it got mended about 8 months before she passed, and we had a really good run in that 8 months. So
That's interesting. Yeah, because you know, speaking of dealing with grief,
Mhm.
you know, I mean, I almost feel like you have set yourself up to deal with it very, very well. I was at your mom's funeral, right? And everybody was just astounded, and it was definitely not one of those of like, oh, Megan should be sadder than this. It was, everybody was like looking at you with admiration. And we all spoke of it too. You know, we made mention of it, and you were. This is obviously a woman, you, who really had just clarity on all this, and it's amazing that you've gained that. I have to question, like, not question, but I have to, I guess, comment on like, man, but what did it take for
Mhm.
you to be there? It's kind of sad because it's like, oh, well, it was a trauma experience that you
Mhm.
learned to deal with
Mhm.
that help you cope and grieve
Yeah.
in a healthy way, though. So
Weird how that worked out.
Yeah.
Word flex.
Right. Yeah. And so I think there's a lot of that in that plays a role in a lot of people's lives, and they don't understand that they're shaped by what triggers them and so in this weird sense, the bad that we have in our past taught us to be good,
Hmm.
you know, just as much as people rely on religions
Yes.
to teach them how to be good.
Hmm.
And so sometimes I question not, I don't question myself. I myself question, um, the motivation that people have to go to church or
Hmm.
churches, because it's to them a source of accountability.
Yeah.
You know,
I think in solidarity too, of just like you said, like you want to bring people together to kind of fill those gaps of like, well, maybe a formal church every Sunday isn't for me, but I can find these other outlets and these other like-minded people, whether it be spiritual, Catholic, Buddhist, whatever,
yeah,
and find my peace, so to speak.
yeah. You know, you got a lot of wheels turning in my head right now.
Sorry.
And no, that's really
You're spinning
great.
plates.
I love it. I love it. You're bringing new thoughts in, and when you're talking about solidarity,
Hmm.
and sense of community,
Hmm.
uh, in churches, I'm afraid to what degree are they telling people how to feel?
Okay.
Whether in comparison to outside of churches, where I hate to suggest that we're more free thinking, but we are. It is more up to us.
I get the like level you're on. Like I'm following the string
Yeah,
that you're putting out. Okay.
and so are we more true to ourselves because we're developing our spirituality or walk,
Hmm.
not influenced in a camarilla of people within a church,
Hmm.
and how we should think or how we should feel,
Yeah.
how we should react or act,
Sure.
and so I can't help but think that it's outside of a church, which I hate saying because I love being a part of a church. I'm a part of a church myself.
Yeah.
But outside of a church is where you really define yourself most.
We have those conversations. And I think that like I'm not I don't necessarily feel like churches are like push the agenda,
Yeah.
but like I do think it's like when you go in, you want to be best foot forward,
Okay.
because you are coming in to be with people that you feel are like-minded and have the same values and want to hear what's going to be brought to the table today for this sermon and this and that and the other. But I think there is, just like with any collective group, there's always that like, oh gosh, am I gonna like say something that's a little too controversial? And so I think we put more pressure on ourselves when we're with a group of people. And I think that like the less you know someone, the more that pressure is to feel camaraderie and to not, tip the scale and to be accepted, to feel accepted, to feel like you're not going to step on anyone's toes. I mean, chronic people pleaser here. So like, I get it.
Yeah, right.
I get it.
Yeah. I've had my problems with fitting in at churches.
Mhm.
I've been to several in my life. I'm very happy that I found a church that I've been able to be a part of for the last 9 years. That's the longest run I've had with any church, including the youth ministry I started my entire Christian life with. But yeah, I get what you're saying. Absolutely. Now, you've used words like agnostic to describe yourself. And I,
Form. I was like, agnostic? Question mark?
yeah, right. Question mark. Right. Question mark.
Like,
Yeah, that's hilarious. But I kind of challenge that because, I mean, maybe I don't know the true definition of agnostic.
yeah, that's why I put a question mark. I was like, you keep using that word. I don't think you know what it means. Like,
yeah, well, I don't pretend that I have all the answers. In fact, the nature of this show is to ask questions. I don't pretend to have any answers,
Right.
and neither do my guests.
Same.
I'm just collecting opinions and feelings and thoughts. But I know that you believe in things.
Mhm.
And I also wonder, somebody who I guess, has used the word agnostic to describe themselves. Uh, what are some of your thoughts on things like where do we come from? Where do we go after this? Do you believe in miracles? Do you believe in an energy that's out there? Because I think that you do.
Yeah.
Do you believe in ghosts? Stuff like that. I'm pretty sure that you and I have discussed in our personal lives so many coincidences that really almost level up to miracles, like undeniable. There's lots of things that we've pondered. Whether it's like, oh my gosh, if I had been up this road 15 seconds earlier, I would have been in that accident I'm passing just now. Stuff like that, to
all the time.
yeah, to other unexplainable things.
Yeah.
But like for you, where do you think we come from?
You're gonna chicken egg me.
I'm chicken.
What came first, chicken or egg? I was actually like, strangely enough, like not thinking about where do we come from necessarily, but like, I'm very like low key, like low level to like the Bible, and it's like God made the universe and made Adam and Eve and et cetera, et cetera. But then like I was laying in bed last night and I don't know if it was a TikTok or something I saw, but I was like, but if God made like all this, if God made, who made God?
Sure.
Like where did God come from?
That's the $1 million question.
Yeah.
Right?
So it's not that I'm like, that's malarkey, or like, I don't believe that, or like whatever, but like, take it back, like, were we just darkness for like billions and trillions of years? And like,
I don't think there was years.
Some air came together and it was the perfect storm,
yeah.
I don't know if I necessarily question, honestly, where we came from, because I'm like, we're here.
The depths of some questions leave it to be moot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a practice in futility when we try and reach back and back, especially when we're not scientists with telescopes that can, read radio frequencies that date certain, you know what I mean? So as a spectator, as a mere mortal, right?
Right.
It almost is fruitless to completely, so what it is that it almost becomes the better option is to live in the present and observe the present.
I was just going to say, I notice as I'm getting older that I'm becoming very much more an in the moment person, where I'm like, and this is probably going to sound like a total cop out, but I'm like, you know what? Like, I don't know how I got here, but I'm here. I'm living these lives. I wake up in the morning, my lungs are working, my heart is beating, my brain is functioning. I have animals to take. Like, thank you. Whoever, wherever you are, like, thank you for another day. Like, is it going to be an extraordinary day? I don't know. Is it going to be a normal day where really not much happens and it's business as usual? No clue. But you know what? As long as it ain't a bad day, I'll take it.
Right. Well, I'm of the feeling myself, of belief that well, we didn't come from nowhere. We didn't.
Oh, absolutely.
We didn't write, and there's too many. And there's too many things working in harmony versus chaos. To believe that this is just all an accident,
right?
And to be able to completely write off the suggestion of design, right? So if there's design, there's thoughts. There's
a feather or something.
If there's design, there's thought. There's thought behind it. There's a plan behind it. So, it's. I do believe in miracles. I believe that life is a miracle. I think that we're a miracle. I think that the simple fact that we can't recreate ourselves with science, but we can by natural dirty activity. Thoughtlessly, brainlessly, you could have an IQ of 4 and still recreate. You know what I mean? That's
all body, baby.
Yeah,
that ain't brain. That's all body.
That's yeah. So and of course, there's scientific explanation for everything, right? There is scientific explanation for pretty much almost anything, but how small must the odds be for something to work out for you to finally be like, okay, you can scientifically explain these odds, but also like these odds are miraculous.
Yeah. And I think like I'm definitely grateful that I'm here. I'm grateful that we're all here. I'm grateful for life. But I think because I don't know how I got here, I don't know how my mother and father were chosen to have me, to have my soul, my presence, whatever. Um, and I'm just in it and I'm living life. I think I'm more fascinated, curious, terrified even of death.
Okay.
And what
Terrified of death. And you know what?
and I think a lot of people are because we just don't know.
Sure. We started on that topic previously, you and I, and I didn't actually get to extrapolate like I wanted to. I actually had an idea after we talked about that.
Nice.
And first of all, to close off what we were last talking about, so to me, the answer sounds like yes, you do believe in miracles.
Yeah. I think that we're much quicker to celebrate and make mention and notice the massive ones, but like they're all around us. They're around us.
Yes, I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. I think it's easy to dismiss. We take for granted a lot of small miracles that need to happen for our lives to function like normally.
Yeah, well, I think when you hear the word, like, I mean, even just to me, like the word miracle, like how it's put together, and I'm not getting into any sort of like Greek explanation, but like
etymology.
It just sounds like a big word.
Sure.
It sounds like it should be something big when I hear miracle. Like, I don't know if that's we're societally trained to think that way, but like, yeah, I mean, honestly, like getting up and breathing and my heart not stopping in the middle of the night, that's a miracle to me because it could have happened.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, you know what? At this point, I'd like to take a second to ask the guests, leave a comment below. Let us know what you think is a miracle and what miracles you have witnessed, whether small or large. I know there are some stories out there that are really large miracles. My dad has a few. I have a handful. A cousin / aunt of mine. Well, actually, I don't know what that is. It's my mom's cousin, really.
A client?
Just that sounds bad. But I'm going to edit that out. No, I'm kidding. A relative of mine just shared a story of a miracle, which she considers a miracle, and I agree. I think it is a miracle, what she went through as well. But I'd love to hear some of your stories as well. I really would love to know what's happened out there that just isn't explainable by science, because I think there's plenty of that out there. There really, really is. Now, to the next point that I was going to say, you're like, oh, you're terrified of death. I'm not. The only thing that terrifies me about death, to be quite honest with you, and this might be because of my spiritual foundation and my beliefs that can lead us to the topic of afterlife, is that I was about to say the only thing that leaves me scared about death is my unfinished work here, what I'm leaving behind, whether it's my musical career, whether it's my mission with the Missing Church, or parenting or grandparenting. Like, I can see myself on my deathbed with a lot of unchecked boxes, like, no, I didn't get to climb Mount Kilimanjaro with my grandchildren, kind of thing.
Right,
you know what I mean? That kind of thing. That's the only thing that scares me about ending my life. If all my boxes are checked, which I have a lot of boxes, to be honest with you, personal boxes. I really do. I have like 6 jobs right now. I really, and I'm driven by passion, and I don't complain about it. I love what I do. That's what it is. If all my boxes were checked, I'd be okay to go. I'm not scared of the lights turning out. And it's partly because of my spiritual beliefs of like, I can't wait to get to heaven. I can't wait to meet God and ask a million questions, and we're going to have time for it because I don't think time exists to God, or the limitations. I mean, the whole thing is like eternal life. You know what I mean?
Right.
The whole concept, right? I have ridiculous questions to ask him. You know, like, how many times did I say the F word while I was alive, kind of thing. You know what I mean? But then, other deeper questions.
You're like, I know you counted.
Yeah, right. So to me, I don't know if this is suggestive or not, but because I believe in God, because I believe that I'm leading the best life that I possibly can, in or out of a church, I'm excited to meet him and ask a bunch of questions. I'm not scared of my time ending here, short of, like I had mentioned a minute ago, all my unchecked boxes, the experiences I wanted to have here. So I'm kicking it in turbo drive, like I really am. I'm trying to spend as much time with my granddaughter as I can. As you know, I try and spend as much time with my my 3 kids as I can, my family all together. I have appointed family times every week, you know, and that's a priority to me. You know, that's what it is. So are you terrified of the lights turning out and then there's just nothing? Is that what it is?
You know what? I think it's so funny because like we have a lot of common like interests and things like that, but like our lives are so different. Like I don't have like family. Like I don't have a family core. Like once my parents pass as an only child, I don't have siblings. I don't have children of my own. I do have relatives that are
influences goals,
still
right?
alive. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I would think so. And I hate to admit this about myself, but I'm not a very driven person. I don't have I don't even know what you would call it. Like, I don't want to say I don't have the drive. Like,
Is it big picture goals?
no, like I'm just like here and like if I get to see friends a couple times a week, like I'm happy with that. And I've had things in life where I'm like, maybe I will like open that small business, or maybe I will finish making that pair of Mickey ears, or maybe I will this, or maybe I will that. But like, if I don't, I'm not like down on myself about it, but I'm also not kicking myself in the butt to like refocus and get back to doing it. So I think when it comes to passing, and this is to me, this is a very would you take a bullet for me scenario, because I'm always like, I don't have a gun to my head, so I don't know if I would take a bullet for you. Like that's a very in the moment thing where I would have to make that decision. And I'm not, knock on wood, currently at the end stages of my life. So maybe once I get there and I know that time is coming, I'll think more about it. But I'm more terrified at the process in which I pass. I don't want to be in a hospital for 2 months.
Okay.
You know, I don't want it like my only hope for passing is like most people that it's quick. You know, and that rush and wherever I'm transported to comes quickly. So I think for me, it's more so the process and how it's going to transpire versus the actual what's next.
Okay.
Because I don't know where we go, but like we've talked about, I know that we're energy. I know that energy doesn't dissipate. That's science.
Yeah, right.
So
that's science, like proving spirituality.
like who dat? Like am I just up by Jupiter somewhere, like and a little spark and like zinging through the stars?
Right.
I don't know, you know, but like that energy has to go somewhere.
I agree. Like I said a second ago, that's like science proving spirituality.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's, proving in that direction. Very interesting. Very interesting. I get it too. Like I know I wouldn't want to be past, you know, leaving. I know I would not want to be spending the last 2 months of my life in a hospital kind of thing too.
Right.
And part of that is actually an imposition that I put upon myself as a father and grandfather.
Yeah.
I don't want my children to deal with that.
Yeah. And see, that's what I'm saying. That's like different walks of life. Like I think not of my children because I don't have children,
right?
But I think like who will be there, you know? And I would never. I would never have, you know.
Wait, I better not be.
I don't ever think you should have children because you need caregivers. Like I don't, you know, and I know like sometimes that's what people do. That's their life. Let them live it. That's not a choice I would make. But I also think like even now, like I'm leaving for Florida in October and know like 2 people that I'm acquaintances with. And I'm like, God forbid, like who's coming down if something happens to me? Like, is anyone, or am I going to be, you know, God forbid, in a hospital bed alone in my last few, you know, and not to derail the conversation, like I have my own things with loneliness and feeling alone. And like, that's my own journey that I'm working on. But those are the things I think of. And it's just interesting to hear you say, like, well, I think about, like, I don't want my kids in that position of having to be caregiver. And I know they would, because they love me and, they want what's best for me, but
Yeah, I quit. I don't know if they
get out of here.
I don't know. Okay. So then, are you? What are you? What keeps you good? What keeps you good then? And are you aiming for heaven?
I think I keep myself good, first off, because I don't think that the accountability of how I act or how I treat people is on anyone else but me. It's not on.
But like, you could just go by living as a jerk. You have fur babies.
Correct.
You have your job. Nobody pays your bills. You do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But I've just kind of like grown into this Church of Megan, I guess. Like this do unto others,
Yeah, the golden rules.
Yeah, going back to what I said a little bit earlier, like, if you wouldn't want to be spoken to that way, why would you speak to someone that way?
Who taught you that? Church of Megan.
Hi, hello. Yes. And what I think you referred to at one point during a conversation is what you consider the God voice.
Yes.
Like that inherent good.
Yes.
And you explained it way better than I could. So if you want to.
I don't remember exactly how I explained it. I just said, I think that, we know if we're doing something good, and we know if we're doing something bad.
Yeah.
And if we have to contemplate whether it's bad or good, it's probably bad. You know what I mean? Right. And that we do have an inner voice. I believe myself, a friend of mine educated me on theisms recently, and apparently I am panentheistic.
Huh?
Yeah, that means that God is everywhere. It's not necessarily there's a difference between the term pantheism and panentheism. And evidently, I identify closer with this term panentheism because I believe that God is everywhere in the air because of energy, like we were talking about earlier. Do I think that I need to worship the trees? No.
Right.
But I do see God in the trees when I see breezes blowing the leaves, and it's just beautiful, right? Yeah. I see God in the sky. I see God in the miracles. I see God in the miracles, everyday miracles. I see God in every breath. I see God in my children's eyes, and I see God in my actions. I really do. So in that way, I also hear a God voice in my head. I feel that God's in me, and that it is my charge to make sure that light is seen, to inspire others to be their best as well. I'm by no means, by the way, any kind of Bible banger. I am a swearing sinner. I hang out with the worst of them. Being a full-time musician, I'm in the trenches, but and I'm not on worship stages, and I don't foresee myself being on that, to be quite honest, because I feel that my work for God is best served in the public outside of church. I feel a very strong conviction for that. I have been invited to many churches, or in my past, to be a part of or consider being a part of the worship team. And I politely always turned them down by saying, you wouldn't want me. And it's not just because of my conviction of being where I'm at, playing at the piano bars and stuff like that. It's also because I don't think I'd meet the standards of any church that I've been a part of. I am not a good representation of the lifestyle they try to encourage. I'm not. I drink. I stay up late and party with people, and I tell dirty jokes, and I live with a woman, outside of marriage, and I don't think any of that is bad. Because I think that I have a strong opinion that people forget that God, or whatever you want to call it, the universe, our creator, it created everything, including what we perceive as bad. and that's a whole other conversation,
Mhm.
probably a whole other episode,
Yeah.
of what we perceive as bad
Right.
as humans, who taught us what is bad versus what we know
Right.
is bad or good in our hearts by
Mhm.
listening to our inner God voice.
Yeah.
You know?
And that circles back to those golden rules, like do unto others, lead with kindness.
Yeah.
Treat people the way you want to be treated, which ironically enough is why my senior dogs are so spoiled. You know, and I was like, this isn't about a key to heaven or a parcel to heaven or, you know, a ticket or whatever, but like, I would hope at the ripe old age of 91, which is what my dogs apparently are in human years, that someone would be kind to me and someone would make sure that I was rested and taken care of and had a couch to lay on and had good food and, you know, was just given the best of the best in those last few, however many months, years, whatever.
So it sounds to me, if you don't mind me interjecting,
Yeah, no.
and don't take this the wrong way, it sounds to me that part of what drives you to be a good person is, one, to be treated well as well, like to be considered,
Mm-hmm.
and two, to be remembered as a good person,
Mhm.
to be loved for that,
Yeah.
which affects one,
Yeah.
to be considered, right? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, to testify towards what you're saying or suggesting here, like, you've been such a good person to me that if somebody, or if something, God forbid, did happen to you where you were incapacitated to take care of
Mhm.
yourself, I don't think that you doubt for a second that I would take care of you. You know,
Mhm.
you know that I would. And so in that sense, you do have family.
Oh. But yeah, so that's it. That's definitely part of it. And
But that's
I think
because you built a big currency
Yeah.
pot with me. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You've been such a good
you
person
show
to
up
me.
for people. You show up for people that show up for you.
Yeah.
And if you're showing up for someone and they're not showing up for you, then I think that's when you have that inner discussion with yourself of, does the ends justify the means? Like, and is this fair? Honestly.
Yeah, is it a one-sided relationship?
Yeah, is it a one-sided relationship? And I also think that just leading with kindness and leading with openness, like, I very much put myself in positions, I'll say even on a daily basis, of someone is doing something and do I agree with it? Yes or no, whatever I decide on. But is what they're doing directly affecting my life? Or is this something that they're doing on their own time, behind their own closed doors, where I shouldn't even have permissible access to in the first place?
Okay.
And if it's not hurting me and it's not hurting the community as a whole, why is it my business? And I think that because of social media and having such quick access to people's lives, sometimes personal things that they put out, sometimes just day to day, whatever. I think we've become more judgy as humans in general,
Yeah,
because
amen
other
to that,
people's
like-
lives are just constantly in our faces and
critiqued.
yeah, and if you want to have the opinions you have, that's fine. But at the end of the day, if it's not affecting you or not affecting your sister or your child or your mother or whatever, I just don't understand how it's your business.
Yeah, and why you need to expend any energy towards
Right.
it.
Well, once
That's
again, social media, we've all got soapboxes now.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
we all-
everyone's opinion counts
yeah,
because there's a platform to put it on.
yeah.
But hey,
But hey, yeah.
we love an open dialogue.
So, what do you think is afterlife? Wait.
Yeah. Well, so once again, still don't know. Like, I'm very,
Well, nobody knows, but
very intrigued and interested in people's near-death experiences, where they've given testimonials of, this is the thing that happened. I was clinically dead for 3 minutes. This is what I saw or think I felt.
ooh, I feel links.
I just think that's rad.
Yeah,
Like, I just think that's
it is
just
cool.
a rad thing. And I get it. Like, you either take people at their word or you don't, because you weren't there. You know, maybe they weren't there. Who knows? Maybe it was brain synapses. Maybe it was science. You know,
but you hear radical stories.
But it's just insane, and it's so intriguing to me, and it gets me even more like when like stuff lines up, and you're like, okay, but like what did I call myself when we were talking? The cautious optimist, where I'm like, if I see something, like let's say I like see a video of something rattling in a house and they're like, I caught this ghost on tape, and I'm like, that could have been your air vent.
Right.
You know, so I try to be logical about it, but like it is fun to believe, right?
Sure.
So then I get
Everybody
in this
loves
and
a
then
good
I'm
mystery.
like, yeah, but then I'm like, okay, but did Deborah see Sharon's video? And is she just like talking about, so try to be like cautious about what I'm like, holy crap about and what I'm not. But I'm really like interested in that. I'm interested in like past life regression, which is like these 3-year-olds like playing with their mom in the kitchen and they're having a dialogue, and then the little girl's like, oh yeah, that's like when I was your mom. I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, wow, that's
ma'am. So that's kind of like just a crazy interesting thing to me. And then also I'm wondering about this new thing I heard on a podcast I listened to, which is death contracts.
What? Oh, okay.
And God, if I butcher this, I'm so sorry. But like the gist of it is that when we start our lives, prior to that, we meet with a being who basically like tells us and draws up this contract of, this is who you're going to belong to in your lifetime. These are going to be your parents. This is the life you're going to lead. This is how you're going to die. And this is where we're going to place you in your next life. And I was like, what is happening? This is the most interesting thing I've ever read in my life or heard in my life.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do a little bit more digging into that just because I think it's really interesting.
That sounds interesting. That sounds
and I'm just like, if that is a true thing, I would love to know how to access that part of my brain. Maybe I wouldn't. I don't know.
Yeah, would you really? I was about to stop
know.
you there. I was like, would you really want to?
But yeah, so just like, I definitely do think that there's something after that. If it is reincarnation, like cool, hope I come back as a cat and don't have to pay bills or taxes.
Yeah. I bet you would love that.
You know, but I definitely think there is. I definitely think that there are things that we can't see. I do believe in bumps in the night, so to speak.
Okay.
What they are, I don't know. But given my optimism in connections in general and energy of people, I would like to hope that they are, you know, people we care about reaching out. I would like to hope that.
I was gonna ask you that next. Are your parents still with you in any way? Do you feel them around? Do you hear them? And if nothing else, do part of them exist in you still?
100%. I haven't had any like experiences, but like I feel like for me, when I get these weird inklings of like, you know what, I'm gonna put American Pickers on because Mom really liked to watch that show.
Interesting.
Like when it just pops into my head, that's when I'm like, all right, we're not moving any glasses across tables or closing any doors, you know, but like, is that just a gentle tap on the brain?
Oh my gosh.
You know?
Wait,
Still
were
here.
you were not.
Because there's no reason I would have wanted to watch American Pickers. Like, I'm not a huge fan of the show. I'm not, but you know, you remember those things of like, Mom used to watch this, Dad used to do that.
Sure.
And with my father, it's just so weird because maybe it's my grief processing. It doesn't feel like he's gone. I've told you this before. Yeah. Like, it feels like he's been on like some really long like trip.
Yeah.
Since 2018.
But also because you've surrounded yourself with a lot of his belongings. Mm-hmm. I know that personally about you. I don't want to divulge too much.
No, that's fine.
You know what I mean?
No, I mean, I've got some art that he did in my apartment and some pictures up. And
right.
I have ashes of my parents.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah.
Right, but I get that feeling. Like he's on he's like somewhere off.
Yeah, so maybe that's my grief, just like saying like, if you're going to put him somewhere good, put him somewhere on earth that makes you feel comfortable.
Well, you know what? Again, aligning with my beliefs,
mm-hmm.
You know, I do believe that you will see your dad again. So I think that aligns with your feeling of, oh, he's just somewhere else right now.
It's going to be a very, what are you doing here moment. Yeah. He's going to be like, what are you doing here?
And according to, you know, what I've grown up believing in my Christianity and my faith and everything like that, He is just temporarily somewhere else,
Yeah.
and you will see him again. You know, and I hope that brings some kind of comfort.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to impose my spiritual or
No,
my Christian
no. I
beliefs.
definitely I think we run into each other, and I think that if reincarnation is a thing or coming back is a thing, if you're lucky enough in your present life, you run into someone where you're like, man, you really remind me of my dad. Or you were like, I mean, to me, that would be like
I
pro
think that's
bono,
a-
like winning the lottery.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful thing.
And also very creepy, but but also like, wow. You know, like whether that be some weird tendency he did with his hands or, his voice, the way he verbally,
Mhm.
my uncle sounds exactly like my dad. So
Okay.
when my uncle calls me and like if he leaves me voicemails, I'm always like, I don't like it.
I know, it's
Like,
chilling.
I like it that y'all sound like way too much alike. And thank God for technology because I do still have voicemails from my dad.
See,
you know
that's
what I mean?
beautiful.
It's been
We're
6 years.
so
And I'm like,
wow.
I don't, unless I play it, I don't remember. But I'm a very in the moment person though. Like there's a lot of like
Right.
my childhood. I just like, I'm like, I know I had a Grandma Pat, but like, what did we do? Like what, did we hang out? Like, did
Sure.
she take me to the movies?
Sure.
And I relied a lot on my mom and dad telling me those stories when they were alive to kind of like trigger that like, oh, okay. But it's never in my mind. I'm always like, okay, mom told me that I used to stay at Grandma Pat's and
So you have a
watch
memory
Johnny
created.
Carson with her and like, but I don't remember that.
But you have a memory created because of what your mom's narrated.
Correct.
was,
Like
right?
I have the knowledge more so.
Right.
Like I don't have the actual like it smelled like this and
So some conservative Christians believe that when you hear your loved ones,
Mhm.
they're supposedly demonic spirits that have bad intentions that disguise themselves as your loved ones.
Mhm.
I am the type of person who is of the school of thought of if you can't prove that, then that's just speculation and opinion. I do believe, I think it's all in what you make of it too.
Sure.
I don't really see reasoning behind a demonic or evil spirit giving you the warm fuzzies.
Yeah,
You know
if
what I
it
mean?
came with some sort of requirement, maybe of like, now go stab these 3 people, then
Yeah.
it's like, okay, Grandma, like,
Right,
I don't
right.
think you would tell me to do that.
Yeah. If it's out of context and out of character,
Yeah,
I think you'd have to be pretty gullible. You know what I mean?
sure.
Yeah. So
Well, but at the same time, though, like, I get it. There's that side of it, 100%. Like, but if there's evil, why can't there also be good?
right.
Like, I can't. I have a hard time just like seeing one side of it.
Right.
Like it has to be demons, but like why can't it be the goodness of heaven shining through, or
Well, it being having to do anything when we're talking about spiritual things that's not provable.
Yeah.
That to me is just laced with manipulation. To be honest, you know what I mean. Like when somebody tries to tell me, like, no, that's evil spirits, at work to manipulate you. That to me is manipulation. That's like an earthly version of, or a spiritual version of an earthly problem of like, oh, well, don't listen to this person because they're a liar. Well, how do I know you're not lying? You know what I mean?
Sure.
Kind of thing. And what do you have solid, tangible proof
Right.
to prove your point and to prove otherwise?
Right. And adversely, like I have no proof of it being the good. But
Yeah, right.
it
But
could
again,
be
it could
either.
be.
You can't just point at one without considering the other.
But you're
It's just
responsible
how
for
I
your
feel.
actions, right?
Exactly.
And so you determine how you're going to interpret that, which leads me to my whole, we actually touched on it earlier. Do you believe in ghosts? And I actually personally do. I don't believe that it's all necessarily good or bad, right? I have my own little ghost stories, and a second question for our audience, I'd love to hear your ghost stories. I really, believe that things can happen that maybe even science can't explain. I'll share a very short version of a recent occurrence that I had.
Oh my God,
I
let me
was
get
at
comfortable.
very, very,
I know, but still.
very short version. I was with friends, and for a second, I thought you were in that circle, but no, we were at a speakeasy at a neighboring town here near
Mhm.
me.
Mhm.
And I was with my mom and a couple friends,
Mhm.
and we were at a beautiful bar that only had 8 people in it at the time. It was an
Okay.
off night, and it was close to closing, and it was a very posh, nice place. And um, we were at a high top table. There was one party that had just left. So that table was like a coffee table set up like with couches, just like this.
Okay.
And it was unbussed. In other words, unserviced. Like it was not clean. All the glasses were still there. The
Sure.
carafe of water was
Yeah.
still there, and everything. And this bar is not near a train station, not near anything that would cause physical ruckus. There's only one other table there of people with 4 other people there,
Okay.
who I later found out was a mutual friend of ours as well.
Small
Yeah.
world.
And so out of the dozen tables that were there were only 2 occupied. My friend and I were sitting on one side of it, facing the direction of this unbussed table
Mhm.
of, that people just left, so nobody got around to cleaning it yet. We're in the middle of conversation, and both my friend and I just happened to be looking in that direction at that time,
Mhm.
and we both saw the carafe of water lift 2 inches off the table from the center of the table. It was not like close to the edge.
Right.
It was here,
Right.
and there were other glasses.
Mhm.
It lifted 2 inches off the table and went right off the table and onto the ground, and took a couple glasses with it.
Huh.
So it was inertia. It was like enough. Yeah.
And that's when you're like, goodbye.
No, yeah, right. Yeah, all right. See it. Check, please. Yeah, no. And her and I looked at each other. Now, her and I both just to be clear and transparent, we both believe in the same kind of spiritual things.
Sure.
So, but we were not the only ones who heard it. The whole bar heard it. The staff heard it. The other
Right.
table heard it. Everybody reacted. Just my friend and I visually saw this happen. There is nothing in the area. Nobody was standing within 15 feet
Right.
of this station
Right.
to manipulate the glasses, the carafe of water, nothing. There's no train station. There wasn't like
No
a train rumbling
T-Rexes.
line. No. So we asked the staff. The staff was not reactive to it other than, oh, time to go clean up. And we're like,
They're like,
has this happened before? So we did. We inquired. And we're just like, what's going on? Oh, yeah, her name is Anna. They just gave her this name, Anna.
all of a sudden you hear it's Anna.
Yeah, no, it's Anna. yeah. Oh my God. No, but apparently there's a history of this kind of activity. Wine glasses taken off the racks, things being spilled with nobody touching it. There's too much consistency behind it. It wasn't just the one time that we had seen it. Now, it seemed pretty extreme, what we had seen.
Yeah.
And I looked at my friend, like, did you see that? She goes, yeah, I saw that. And my mom and my other friend who was in attendance asked, like, what was that? And we literally, like, at the risk of sounding stupid, we just saw a ghost move these glasses and crash on the ground. But apparently that is regular occurrence there, and so much so that they gave her a name. But this is a somewhat peaceful, obviously not malicious because it's not hurt anybody.
Right. It's not like it flew at someone's head.
Right. It's like they just wanted to make their presence known, and that's it.
Yeah.
It's never been a danger. It's never hurt
It's like
anyone.
a radio turning on. You hear radios turn on, or,
But
doors creaking.
I'd love to hear your ghost story. I would love to know if you've had anything just completely freaky happen. It's happened to my parents. It's happened to me. It's happened in the presence of others too, not just by myself. Other people have witnessed what I've witnessed. So it's crazy. Is it demonic? I mean, who knows? How do we grade the intentions of if there are ghosts, right?
The intention is the big question mark.
Right, exactly. So, I want to thank you for being on my show. Thank you so much for being one of my first guests.
Welcome.
Yeah, I hope there are people out there that are going to be able to connect with you and how you feel. I know that I spouted some of my beliefs in there too. I sprinkled some of mine. Please share your feelings and stories. Obviously, if you're all really negative, I'm going to censor the comments. We're not, I'm open to being disproved, but we won't.
Well,
we're
it's
not,
if it's coming with a dialogue, that's one thing. If it's just yelling at someone, it's like we're not going to get anywhere, people.
Right, exactly.
Open hearts, open minds.
So thank you for tuning in to this episode of The Missing Church. Thank you to my thank you to my cheesy ass friend Megan. I love you so much for coming on the show. Appropriate.
I love you.
I love you too. Hey, again, please like and subscribe. I hope that you'll tune in to future episodes. And also let us know what topics you'd like to see addressed on The Missing Church.
And
Please.
don't forget, #bring Megan back.
Okay, we can do that. Thank you so much, love.
No problem. Thank you. Bye. Still a good one.